Well, here's one way to lower the value of your home. Roll out a new climate risk index. And this is exactly what Zillow is doing. Now, Zillow does have their valuation model, which is called the Zestimate. And a lot of people don't like it, including most realtors, appraisers, or really anyone in the industry. Mostly because the Zestimate is not accurate. Well, now Zillow decided to roll out another thing that is probably not going to be very accurate. And that is the climate risk score of particular properties to show you, like within the next 30 years, how much at risk is a particular property from flood, fire, wind damage, any kind of natural disasters. Let's quickly talk about this, and I'll tell you why I don't like this. First of all, who is Zillow to make such an assessment? Do they study the climate? Do they study the history? Do they have the data like insurance companies have to really assess and say, hey, this property is at risk or this one is not? Or is it possible they're going to be leaning one way or the other when it comes to giving a particular score because maybe, just maybe, one of their friends, a hedge fund, or maybe their own investors want to purchase a property, so they give it a high risk to lower the potential value and lower the demand for that property. I am really not liking this because it puts something that is statistics driven into the hands of a corporation, but we never get to see how they come up with these risk scores, just like we never get to see how they come up with these Zestimate. It is a secret, algorithm, kind of like FICO credit scores and Vantage Score 3.0 or 4.0 scores. This is just another thing being added to make people like you and me suffer. Another thing I don't like about it is how is insurance going to take this data and how are they going to use it as a supplement or maybe as an additional thing they can add to raise your premiums. Maybe eventually it'll become a pretty decent model. Maybe insurance is going to say, oh, that's interesting. We deemed it to be at certain risk level, but now Zillow is saying that it's a higher risk level. Therefore, we're just going to take Zillow's opinion and rate it and charge you for that higher risk level. Now, this article goes on to talk about Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene that hit my area, Sarasota, Florida. Although I am not in Sarasota right now, I am in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is why it's so dang cold to me because I'm a 32-year Floridian at this point. Anyway, they mentioned these two hurricanes hitting the area and causing $81.5 billion in combined insured and uninsured losses. Look, I don't know what that number is, and it doesn't really matter. Natural disasters happen no matter where you live, literally in the entire world. You don't have to live in Florida to get hurricanes. You don't have to live in California to get fires. The risks are real and they are everywhere you go. So now they're just going to make something sound scarier. And if they want to buy a whole bunch of beachfront property at a discount, why don't you make those the worst of the worst? That way there's going to be lower demand and more people selling and less people buying. Now, they mentioned that the risk of hurricane damage is not readily apparent usually. And I agree. I mean, until the hurricane's here, there's no hurricane here, right? But I've lived in Sarasota since 1992 and we've never been hit like this. So just because there's, one season of occurrences, does that mean that there is a higher chance of these occurrences happening in the future? The answer is no. The answer, it lies very similar to flipping a coin. When you flip a coin one time and it lands on heads, is there a higher probability of it landing on tails the second time? The answer is no. Ask any statistician about this. What about the third time? Let's just say it lands heads, and now the third time, is there a higher chance that it's going to land on tails on the third one? No, that chance is still 50-50. And this is exactly why I don't like this situation, where they're saying a particular area is going to be prone to higher risks of hurricanes because maybe one happened last year. Well, it doesn't mean there's going to be one this year. Now, the general climate activists out there are saying that, yeah, there is a higher chance every single year because all of our Earth is warming up. And I don't know. I don't know about that. This is not about climate change. This is about adding another layer of fear towards a listing that is not necessarily going to help the buyers, but it's definitely going to hurt the sellers. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, so I am curious. If you could just drop a comment, whether it's about climate change or whether it's about this particular thing that Zillow is going to be rolling out, which is the climate risk. Will it be something that really hurts the market? Will it cause finally for prices to come down? Because, you know, prices haven't been falling for a very long time. They've just been rising pretty much since the last, great financial crisis, the GFC, and that was in 2008. Well, to be honest, they actually bottomed out in 2010. But either way, it's been a very, very long time of appreciation. And I don't think that this is going to help anything. I think this is going to hurt. What would really help is just lower interest rates. But we need big changes for that to happen. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Now, if Zillow implements this, here's my proposal. Why don't you just make the data public? Take all the data that your scientists are using to come up with a particular assessment of a risk and release it. Like, let it be open source for scrutiny by other people. But you know what? Zillow doesn't have any balls, so they're not going to do it. They are just a corporate entity on the stock market. They need to bring quarterly earnings to their stockholders. So they're not going to show you what we all want to see, which is justification on why your property is now going to be showing a higher risk, even though nothing has ever happened to it. And then how do you contest it? How do you appeal it? It's going to create basically a problem. That's how I see it. Do you see anything different happening? Let me know what you think about this. And if you think this is needed, if this is a needed issue, great. Why? Just explain yourself in the comment.